A warm greeting to one and all. Dear friends, welcome to tutorial Programming Logic and Technique with Programming C. And in the today's sessions, we are going to discuss about a flowchart. So in the last session, we have covered algorithm. In fact, we have took 10 sessions on the algorithm itself. Then we have discussed different types of process like sequential process, conditional process and iterative process. And we have also discussed about the IPO cycle, that is called as what? Input, process and output cycle. So in the today's sessions, we are going to discuss about a flowchart, then various symbols that have been used in a flowchart, then the types of flowchart, advantages and disadvantages of flowchart. Then we will discuss how to convert the algorithm into a flowchart using online tools, then various tools in order to draw a flowchart, and finally we will end up with a pseudocode. So what is flowchart? A flowchart is a diagrammatic representation that illustrates the sequence of operations to be performed to arrive at the solution of a problem. Okay, it is same as that of what the algorithm, but in algorithm it's what a narrative or descriptive in nature, while algorithm flowchart is what? It is a diagrammatic form. So in other words, it is just what? A pictorial representation of an algorithm. Observe that we have various symbols that have been used in order to draw a flowchart. So flowchart is what? A various symbols that have what? A geometrical shape. See, observe that this is what your oval shape, this is your parallelogram, this is your rectangular shape. So it means we are using what? A various geometrical symbols in order to draw a flowchart. These symbols are connected by means of what? A lines which indicate a flow. So we have a different types of arrows like up arrow, down arrow, left and right. In short, flowchart is like a blueprint which essentially shows the details of the proposed structure. So it overall at glance we are able to know for what purpose we are solving that particular problem by means of what? A flowchart. It is an intermediate step between an algorithm and preparation of actual computer programming. Okay, so once you have written the algorithm, the next step is what? You should always draw a flowchart for that corresponding algorithm before writing actual program. So that's why it is what? Intermediate step between the algorithm and flowchart. Now, what are the various symbols that have been used in flowchart? So basically we have various symbols like this symbol is referred as what? Terminal box, and it is in oval shape. It's useful to indicate the beginning and end of the flowchart. Then we have a parallelogram which is referred as what? Input output box, and useful to accept and display the information. So whenever you want to accept certain values or whenever you would like to display certain informations or values, in that case we are going to use this input output box. Then we have a process box which looks like a what? Rectangular in shape, and the symbol is used to indicate what? Various computation and assignment statements. So whenever you are performing certain calculations or whenever you are assigning certain values to a variable, in that case we are using this kind of symbol. Then we have a decision box which is in diamond shape or which is look like a kite, and basically it is useful to make certain decision, and on the basis of the decision it will take a branching, either a true branching and other one is what? False branching, which is also referred as what? True and no. Then we have a connector. Basically connector is useful to join the two parts. Assume that your flowchart is very long, so it might be possible that you may require more than one page. So in that case, at the end of the first page and at the beginning of the first page, what we are doing? We are using a connector to show a flow. Then we have a various arrow symbol like I already told, that is down, up, right and left, to indicate what? The flow of your entire problem of and solution. Now, what are the different types of flowcharts? So basically there are two types of flowchart. One is called as a system flowchart. It means it presents an overview of the data flow of the system, showing a flow of document and activities performed, the person or workstation involved. So basically remember that when we are talking about system flowchart, we are talking about some big problem. For example, assume that you might have gone through the various steps while taking the admission. So first of all, what you used to do? You used to take the admission at one location. Then for submitting the fees, you used to visit another window for performing the same operation. It means what we are doing? We have a different modules in order to perform this operation. So when we are talking about a big problem, it consists of what? A different types of modules. So this is what? An overview of the picture of the problem that you are going to solve. Then it is what? A system flowchart. So system means what? Interconnections among the different components. Okay, like admission, finance, library. These are what? These are the various components of what? A particular college. And when you are solving a particular problem, say admission system or financial system, or if you want to build a certain application based on this, you need some big tasks. It means we may consider it somewhat big problem. So big problem, whenever you are going for a certain big problem, we use what? A system flowchart to indicate the various types of modules that we may require in order to solve that particular given problem. Okay. Then a program flowchart. When we are talking about a program flowchart, it is a very small in nature and we are solving a particular problem. Then it is what? A program flowchart. Like it may explain, it may perform the various arithmetical, logical operation and decision making system. All these things we are doing in the program flowchart. So what is the basic difference? A program flowchart, here one concentrate on how to solve a particular problem, while in case of system flowchart, one thinks the overall system or entire system rather than the individual problem. Easy to understand the flow because it's a single module, so concentrating and solving that problem and understanding that problem is very easy compared to the entire or big problem. So that is, in system flowchart, it's a complex and difficult to understand at first glance. Then programmer often use it as what? A programming planning tool to solve a given problem. So basically it is one of the tools. Flowchart is one of the tool that development tool that has been used by the programmers while solving a problem. It makes the use of various symbols which are connected among them to indicate the flow of information and processing. While in case of system flowchart, it is easy to identify the different modules of the software from the structure chart. It means in a big problem, we are able to identify what are the various modules that we are going to write in this particular overall system. Then a data interchange between the different modules is represented here. So how the one module is connected with the another module is very well represented in case of system flowchart, which is not possible in case of the program flowcharts. Then program flowchart. When you are talking about the program flowchart, again it consists of three types of flow. The first one is called sequential flow, then conditional flow, and last one is iterative or looping flow. We have already seen a process, that is sequential process, then conditional process and iterative process. So what is sequential? Where the sequence of steps are executed one after another. While in conditional flow, based on certain condition, when we are taking certain decision, this is what? Conditional. And iterative means where a sequence of steps are going to be executed again and again as long as condition is true. It is what? Your iterative process or iterative loop or looping flow. So now write an algorithm or pseudocode and draw a flowchart to find what? The sum of two numbers. Here we need to understand a basic difference between algorithm and pseudocode. So suppose if you want to find out the sum of two numbers, one may write like this. Get the two numbers from the user, perform the additions of those two numbers and then display the result and stop. It is a perfect way to solve this particular problem. It means we may call it somewhat English-like language, and it is a narrative description of a particular narrative description of a problem that you are going to solve. Okay. Now when we are talking about pseudocode, it is somewhat closer to a programming language syntax. Okay, it means we are saying that accept the two numbers, that is accept what? A and B. So we may say that accept is what? One of the keyword which denote what you are going to accept a certain values. Similarly, display denote what? You are going to display certain values or information. Then this arithmetic symbols, it indicate that it is performing the operation and we are storing the result. It means this code is somewhat closer to the program that we used to write in a high level language. Okay, so so far we used to call this as what? Algorithm itself. Now please remember, algorithm is basically free format. It means someone may write like this and call it as algorithm. Someone may also write like this and call it as an algorithm. But being a computer science student, you should now say that this is what? A pseudocode, a code which is somewhat resembles the actual programming language. Okay, even if someone is calling this as an algorithm, it is not and wrong. Please remember, because algorithm is what? It's a free format. Anyone can use any kind of notation in order to write an algorithm in order to solve that particular problem while solving that problem. Now a corresponding flowchart for this particular problem. So start, then accept the two numbers. So we have used here what? The input output box for accepting the values. Okay. Then perform the addition by means of what? A process box. which is of rectangular in shape, then display the result, again input output box, okay, and finally stop. And observe the arrow. The flow is from what? Top to bottom. Okay. Now let us try to understand a difference between algorithm and flowchart. Algorithm is what? It is a step-by-step procedure to solve a given problem, while flowchart is simply a diagrammatic representation to solve that particular problem. Algorithm is complex to understand. Okay, we have seen a narrative description while solving the additions of two numbers. So at first glance, someone may not be able to understand, okay, what one would like to convey, while flowcharts are easy to understand. Because of what? In algorithm, we are using what? A plain text, while in flowchart, we are using a symbols and shape in order to solve that particular problem. Algorithm does not follow any rule. Please remember, like we have seen in previous case, we have written an algorithm and we have also written what? Pseudo code. Again, pseudo code is somewhat, someone may call it the algorithm, because algorithm is a free format language. And when we are writing the algorithm, we don't need to follow any kind of rules. But that is not the true when it comes to the flowchart. If you want to accept a value, you must use input-output box. If you want to perform certain calculation, then you must specify what? A process box itself. It means we are following certain rules and regulation while drawing a flowchart. Then algorithm is what? It is somewhat similar to the pseudo code while writing a program. Flowchart is simply a graphical representation of the problem that you are going to solve. Now, what are the tools that will help you to convert the algorithm or code into a flowchart? So, there is one tool called as code2flow.com. Using this website, you are able to convert your algorithm into corresponding flowchart very easily. For that purpose, what you need to do? First of all, you need to sign up that particular you need to sign up so that you will be able to access this particular tools. And it's very simple. Using if you have your Gmail account, then you can sign up with the Gmail account in order to start with this particular tools. We will see during the practical session how to work with this. Then we will take one more example. Suppose if you want to find out, write a pseudo code and draw a flowchart to swap or exchange the contents of two variables. Okay, it should not be a number, it should be a variable. So accept the two values, say A and B. Then we have already seen how to write an algorithm for this. It's very simple, no? So I have already given the example. Let me repeat again. दो लोग दो चेयर पे बैठे हैं और दोनों को आपस में अपनी सीट क्या करना है? इंटरचेंज करना है या एक्सचेंज करना है, और कंडीशन ये है कि एट ए टाइम एक ही खड़ा हो सकता है. सो इज इट पॉसिबल टू सॉल्व दैट प्रॉब्लम? ऑफ कोर्स नॉट. ओके, लेकिन बाजू में एक सीट और एक खाली पड़ी है. नाउ इट्स वेरी सिंपल. मतलब क्या हो रहा है? ए पहले कहाँ जाएगा? टी मतलब खाली सीट पे बैठेगा. देन बी विल बी सीट ऑन ए एंड फाइनली द टी विल बी sit on the seat of what? B, and finally display the results. Okay. Now, how to write the corresponding flowchart or how to draw a corresponding flowchart for this particular algorithm? So start, then accept the two values by means of input and output box. Then observe that all these three statements of nature of what? Assignment statement. So instead of writing a separate box for all of them, we can combine them into a single. Okay, this is what your process box. एंड फाइनली डिस्प्ले द रिजल्ट एंड स्टॉप. मतलब हमको तीन बॉक्स अलग अलग बनाने की जरूरत नहीं. फॉर एग्जांपल हमने यहाँ पे एक्सेप्ट ए बी एक साथ किया, हमने दो अलग अलग इनपुट बॉक्स लिए क्या? नो, इन अ सिंगल बॉक्स इटसेल्फ वी आर एक्सेप्टिंग द बोथ द वैल्यूज. नाउ राइट एन एल्गोरिथम और pseudo code and draw a flowchart to find the largest of two numbers, two unique number. Okay, so assume we are accepting the value of a and b. Now we know very well how to write an algorithm to find out the largest among the two numbers. So if the value of a is greater than b, then display what? A is large, otherwise b is large. Now see the corresponding flowchart for this. Accept the two values. Now what we need to do? You need to make a decision. So for that purpose, we have a decision box symbol. Check whether the value of a is greater than b. If it is so, if it is true, perform the true part entirely. Display a is large, and once this statement is executed, then control will be transferred to the stop. So let's complete it. Now if this condition is false, it means what? Display b is large, no part, and then again control will be transferred to the stop. Okay, now it is not necessary that you should always mention a true yes box on the left side or no on the right side. It is up to you. Okay, there is no rules and regulation for this. Now write an algorithm or pseudo code and draw a flowchart to print first 5 numbers. So using a looping flow, you know very well how to write an algorithm for this. So initially it starts with what? 1. 1 is less than 5. Yes. So display the value of I. That is what? 1. Then the value of I become 2. Why 2? Because step is 1. Now 2 is less than 5. Yes. So display the value of I. That was 2. Then the value of I become 3. And this process will be continue up to 5. The moment the value of I becomes 6, the control will be transferred to the next statement. So in this case it is what? Stop. So our program will get halt. Now let's see the corresponding flowchart for this algorithm. Start. Initially, what is the value of I? It's a 1. Then check whether 1 is less than 5. It means we are checking the condition. So I is less than 5. If it is so, display the value of I. Now observe that in this case we are writing yes on the downside. In the earlier program we have written on the left side. So like earlier said, there is no rules and regulation where you should proceed. Okay. Then the value of I will be incremented by 1. And again check 2 is less than 5. So again go back to this statement. So this is what you are looping. Observe that first of all always complete one part. Yes part or no part, whatever may be it. Okay. So always complete the first part, then only go for the next side. Now if I is less than 5, if it is no, it means if it is the condition is false, then what we are going to do? Simply stop. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of flowcharts? Easy to understand because due to the pictorial representation, it's very easy to understand the flow of the entire problem. Then aid to debug. It helps to review and debug the program. Debugging means checking if there is any error in particular steps. So since it gives a flow, it is very easy to find out if any error or if any mistake one has committed. So using flowchart, it is very easy to debug our program. Then it helps in order to maintain the documentation, and one can share this documentation with someone else, so in order to understand whether the entire part has been written properly or not. Then disadvantages of the flowcharts. Most software developers believe that a flowchart is simply a waste of time, and as they feel this tool slow down the entire process of what? Software development. Okay, and that's why they use it only for the purpose of documentation, but it is not true. My suggestion is always go in the order. First of all write the algorithm, then go for the flowchart, and then only start with the programming. You will be able to get the entire logic, or you will be able to understand the entire logic of the problem in order to solve that particular problem. My suggestion is always write algorithm, then flowchart, and then go for the programming, because you will be able to get entire glance about the problem that you are going to solve. So there are various software tools we will discuss. Those tools will be help you to convert what? To draw a flowcharts. Now following are some of the disadvantages of the flowchart. Modification and reproduction. Okay, if you have forget to include any statements while drawing a flowchart, then in order to give a better presentation, you need to do what? You need to redraw the entire flowchart, which is very time consuming. Okay. Then it is the costly affair because flowchart required a larger space, and hence it is what? Costlier, and is difficult to manage if it is big problem. It is complex, it becomes more complex and clumsy when program logic is somewhat complex. Assume that it is flowing around say 4 or 5 pages, then connecting all those 5 parts is not an easy task. Then cumbersome to use. Flowcharts are cumbersome to use and costly to produce because of what? Graphic format. They may require more than page to present what may require the half a page equally detailed description in some other format, which may be an algorithm or which may be a program. So it takes more space compared to the other format like algorithms and pseudocodes. Then more space. Okay, flowchart occupy also more space than any other means. And finally, it is only man-to-man communication. The flowchart that you have drawn, you are not able to check it via a tool whether we have written it properly or not. Okay, and hence it is called as what? Only man-to-man communications. Flowchart are not meant for man-to-computer communication. Okay. For this, flowchart have to convert it into the convenient language, and they are only mean for what? Man-to-man communication. Now the various tools that will help you to draw a flowchart are, these are some of the list, And in the practical session, we will discuss about what? A lucid chat. How to draw a flowchart using this lucid chat. Now, what is pseudocode? As we have already seen, what is pseudocode? It is a code which are somewhat similar to the programming language. Okay, it means converting the pseudocode into corresponding programming language is quite easy than that of what? Algorithms. So, pseudocode is not basically a programming language, because it means we are not able to execute any kind of code that you are writing in the form of pseudocode. It is simply an informal way of what? Describing a program. It does not require to follow any strict syntax, okay, to write particular step. For example, when you are talking about a C language, in C language condition must be specified within the brackets. It is not necessary when you are writing a pseudocode. That's why we are saying it's not a strict syntax follower. Pseudocode is mainly used for creating what? An outline or rough draft of a particular program. Okay, overall we can get what? Overall outline of our program can be understood by means of what? A pseudocode. And finally, it is not an actual programming language. Pseudocode cannot be compiled into executable program. Since it is not a code, the code that we used to say in a programming language, it is simply an informal way. So we cannot execute this code, and that's why there is no question of creating what? Executable program that is possible in case of solving the problem using the high level language. Now these are some of the references that you may follow. Now in the practical session, we will see how to draw a flowchart using a tool called as lucid chat, and finally converting the code or algorithm into a flowchart. Okay, so let's see. To start with Google. So type here lucidchat.com, okay, and then press enter key. So like earlier told you, first of all you need to sign up. Okay, since I already signed up, I am getting this particular message. Okay, it is not a free version. In a free version, you have a very few options. Basically, it is a paid version tools. Okay, so far I have created some of the flowcharts. Now, since I want to create a new one, new. Okay, then start with certain templates if you want. We have a various types of template that has been given over here. Using this template, you can also start, or otherwise simply click on create blank diagram. It is a trial version, remember. Okay, so blank diagram, it is taking a time to load. So you are able to draw a very nice flowcharts using this particular tool. So this is what the interface. Now start. It is a terminal box. So here what you need to do, you need to drag and drop. Okay, right here directly, start. Then accept the values, drag and drop. Accept the value of A and B. Then process. If you want to find out the say addition of two number in that case. Otherwise, if you want to find out the largest of two number, we will see that one. Now condition. Decision making. If it is true, then say if it is true, drag and drop. Display A is large. Otherwise, drag and drop. Display B is large. Okay, and then stop. Okay, now the next thing is what? You need to draw an arrow. Okay, so select the line and now observe that this ओके देखिए यहाँ पे कलर आ रहा है ना, तो उसको एंड डाउन, सी दिस ऑटोमेटिकली कमिंग यस एंड नो. देन सिमिलरली okay, now you can also view in a different zoom in, zoom out, zoom to page, etc. You can also make it colorful. There are various things that is possible over here. Okay, for decision, it means you are able to make it a colorful one. For accept, okay, and you are able to change the size one also. You can change the font style, so there are various things that is possible. Okay, and finally most important part is that you can, अगर आपको फाइल का नाम चेंज करना होगा तो बाय डिफॉल्ट इट्स व्हाट, ब्लैंक डायग्राम. सो डबल क्लिक ओवर हियर एंड गिव अ न्यू नेम, से large 2. Okay, this is how you will be able to give a name to the file. And now most important part, share. You will be able to share your flowcharts with someone else. Okay, it means collaborative work is possible. So simply click on the share and specify the mail ID to whom you would like to send. For example, myself only, sbk.social30@gmail.com. Okay, and we can also write here particular proper message. Now there is you have a choice whether the person whom you are going to send, whether he is able to edit it or not. Okay, so what kind of permission you are giving. मतलब हम क्या कर सकते हैं, यहाँ पे कोलैबोरेटिव वर्क कर सकते हैं. जो हमने फ्लो चार्ट बनाया किसी और के साथ शेयर कर सकते हैं, और जिस पर्सन को हम भेज रहे हैं वो उस फ्लो चार्ट को क्या कर सकता है, एडिट भी कर सकता है. सो सच काइंड ऑफ फीचर्स आर अवेलेबल इन दिस पर्टिकुलर लूसिड चार्ट. Okay, so I hope that you understood how to draw a flowchart very easily by means of what a tool called as Lucid Chart. Please again remember, it's a paid version, not a free version. In a free version, you have a very less features that are available. Okay, now the next thing is what? How to convert an algorithm or code into corresponding flowchart. So for that purpose, यहाँ पे लिखना है आपको code to flow.com. Code to flow.com. Okay, click on this. Okay, so try the free version. And now here आपको क्या करना है, my flowchart जो हमने बनाया है वो सब यहाँ पे मिलेंगे आपको. Okay, so create new flowchart. ना यहाँ पे आपको पूरी कोडिंग लिखनी है. देखिए ये कोडिंग का इसमें ऑलरेडी करस्पॉन्डिंग क्या बनाया है, फ्लो चार्ट बनाया है. तो स्टार्ट, डोंट फॉरगेट टू गिव द सेमीकोलन एट द एंड. ओके, दैट इज द रेस्ट्रिक्शन. देन एक्सेप्ट ए कॉमा बी. अगर हमने सेमीकोलन नहीं दिया तो क्या होगा, देखो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ ब्रैकेट ए इज ग्रेटर देन बी, ऑब्जर्व. ओके, इट लुक्स वेरी ऑड. सो फॉर दैट पर्पज व्हाट यू नीड टू डू, don't forget to give the semicolon, then enter, then opening brace. If you want to write few statement, display, say A is large, otherwise display B is large. Okay, and then finally semicolon, stop. ओके, सो इट लुक्स, सी क्या बन रहा है अपने आप, आपकी फ्लो चार्ट बन के तैयार है. ना अज्यूम करो कि मैं यहाँ पे कुछ स्टेटमेंट भूल गया. सपोज मुझे स्टोर करना है कि जो वैल्यू लार्जेस्ट है उसको किसी वेरिएबल में सेव करना है. तो लार्ज इज इक्वल टू व्हाट, ए. ओके, सेमीकोलन. and then here also again opening brass. It is somewhat closer to the programming language C, semicolon again. Okay, so observed, the flowchart is now ready. Now यहाँ पे भी हमको क्या करना है, सेमीकोलन देना है. यहाँ पे हमने else नहीं लिखे, इसलिए यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, गलत हो रहा है else part. So except the if A is greater than B, true part large is equal to A, then A is large, otherwise large is equal to B, display B is large and stop. Okay, but the symbol that has been used for input and processing is same over here. ठीक है, symbol जो यूज किया गया है input and for accepting and displaying and for processing, all these symbols are what, they are in a rectangular form. Okay, that has been used by what, code2flow.com. अगेन यहाँ पे हम क्या कर सकते हैं, इसको शेयर कर सकते हैं. हमने देखे हैं पिछले बार हाउ टू शेयर, एंड यू कैन डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं आप इसको. ठीक है, आप इसको रीनेम कर सकते हैं एंड यू आर एबल टू परफॉर्म द वेरियस अदर ऑप्शंस अंडर द सेटिंग हेडिंग्स. सेटिंग्स में बहुत सारे हम यहाँ पे ट्रू फॉल्स की जगह सपोज हमको यस नो चाहिए तो हम यस नो लिख सकते हैं, एंड देयर आर वेरियस थिंग दैट आर पॉसिबल. सो ट्राई ऑल दिस थिंग्स. ओके, ट्राई ऑल दिस थिंग. सो वी हैव सीन what is flowchart, okay, and then the advantages of flowchart, disadvantages of flowchart. Then we have seen a difference between system flowchart and program flowchart. Then we have discussed about the algorithms and the difference between algorithms and the flowcharts. And finally we have seen two tools. The first tool is what, for creating a flowchart by means of what, a lucidchart.com, and second, this one, code2flow, is basically useful to convert what, your algorithm into the corresponding flowchart. It may be code, I am saying it's a code, it means it may be an algorithm or program. You will be able to write that and you will be get what, automatic flowcharts. So I hope that you understood all these things. Practice it. That makes a man perfect, someone has said it. So obviously you need to do a lot of practice in order to understand all these concepts. So again remember, so try to use these tools in order to make understanding of your knowledge of the flowchart very well. So with that, have a nice day.